Welcome back to the Fox 7 Sports Office. Julian Martinez here, joined today by Sudu Upadhyay from our sister station in Atlanta. Sudu, second time getting a chance to jump into the sports office. How's it going, man?
It's going well. How are you, man? Exciting week ahead for us.
I'd say so, and especially too, Texas has been holding up its end of the bargain, but can't say as much for the Bulldogs as of late. Can you explain kind of like what's been going on in Athens?
Yeah, I think a lot of people are baffled in Athens as well. I don't think it's much of a panic as maybe some Georgia fans are feeling, but certainly not the team that you thought you were getting at the beginning of the season. The biggest issues currently are in the secondary for Georgia. They were kind of banged up in the defensive line early in the season, and so you kind of saw maybe a drop off in pressures and sacks and things compared to the season opener. But the biggest issue right now is really the cornerback play. It has been a big deal for Georgia, and offensively, it's always been a big running team. The culture at UGA, no matter who's been the coach here, Mark Richt, Kirby Smart, it's you've got good running backs. You run the football. Haven't done that as well this year. So a week ago, the game against Bama, when you put those two kind of together, you're starting to see maybe this is more of a passing Georgia team instead of, hey, this team runs the ball and then they sprinkle in pass here and there. So those are kind of the two things that stick out right now is a lack of a run game and secondary play.
So let's recap a little. When we first talked about this game a few weeks ago, we said, okay, this might be conceivably the first of three matchups between Texas and UGA this season. Since that time, so UGA started the year as the consistent number one pick, and then the Kentucky game happened. The offense had a little bit of shortcomings there. A couple weeks later, we fast forward, and then the Alabama game happens, and the defense just gets absolutely smoked in that first half. But then they roar back to make a comeback that just falls short, just because that Ryan Williams kid is amazing. And
Yeah.
then just this past week, I would also say, although again a win, a very unimpressive win against a Mississippi State team that Texas a few weeks ago played and made them look like they were playing an offense from the 1950s. So
Yeah.
what happened in that Mississippi State game specifically? Because this offense a couple weeks ago did not look like it was anything worthwhile.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, man, they made great adjustments. I mean, first half, for the most part, they held on. Georgia did. They played pretty well, and you were playing a true freshman quarterback making the second start. It kind of looked like that. Second half, Jeff Levy and that Mississippi State offense, they made some adjustments and they took shots. And right now, I mean, like I said, the cornerback play at Georgia is not up to standard. It's not what it has been in the past. You had a true freshman safety and KJ Bolden get an interception. I mean, he's going to be a big part of this program for years to come. You got Malachi Starks back there, who's an two-time All-American and probably headed to the NFL draft at the end of this year. But outside of those guys, you're not getting the best play out of those other guys in the secondary, primarily the corners. And Mississippi State took advantage of that. I mean, they had one play where a receiver just outran a guy, and they got a huge chunk play, and they ultimately scored. I think some of it is also a lack of pass rush at times for Georgia, a team that really, has been able to get to the quarterback. Even if they haven't had the sack numbers in the past years, they've been at least able to pressure and get in their face. You didn't see too much of that in that game either. Um, but Kirby Smart kind of chalked it up to we shot ourselves in the foot. We really just gave up these points, these huge chunk plays when we shouldn't have. So he doesn't sound too worried about his personnel necessarily. I think it seems more like this was a lapse in whatever in the moment of these guys. But if you've watched Georgia all season long, it has been a very glaring thing that you got to get better play from your defensive backs if you're going to last in the SEC all year, especially when you go up against the Texas offense that is pretty dang good at throwing the football.
I was just about to ask that. So you're going against this UT offense that, again, the offensive line has been one of the best, if not the best, in the SEC. So you talk about lack of pass rush. That's a bit of an issue. And then you talk about an exposable secondary going against one of the deepest wide receiving rooms in the conference. How do they slow this offense?
That's a great question. I mean, I think you're honestly going to have to see some kind of a change in the secondary. I don't know what that looks like just quite yet. I don't know if you maybe give some other guys opportunities and you switch some things up and maybe, I don't know. I mean, Malachi Starks is a very dynamic DB. He is a true safety, but maybe you put him in other positions that, helps out the other guys. I honestly could not tell you right now because I don't think it's the talent issue. Obviously, Georgia has been bringing in top five recruiting classes on a consistent basis, so they have talent. it's just, at times I feel like it's just lackadaisical play. I mean, honestly, there've been a couple plays where I've just felt like, is that guy even given an effort? I mean, do they even care? And of course they do, but that's how it comes off because of, like I said, the lapse in judgment and the way they're covering and kind of the way they're letting guys get by them. So I'm not completely sure. I think they're gonna have to get the pass rush going. They're gonna have to affect Quinn Ewers somehow. Mykel Williams, Jalen Walker, Ty Ingram Dawkins, and they have guys that can get back there and wreak havoc. They're going to need that against Texas because you're not going to be able to give Quinn all the time in the world to sit there and find his receivers who are extremely talented. I mean, Georgia fans know this. They are quite familiar with Isaiah Bond as well. You know what I mean? So they know. I mean, it's going to have to, I think it's going to come down to solid linebacker play and solid defensive line play in order to have any sort of effect on this Texas offense because, I mean, we know they're going to take their shots.
In our last conversation, we also said, is this basically the game that decides the Heisman? Now we're not even talking about that, right? Because Quinn missed a couple games. He played himself
Right.
with injury. And then it seems like Carson Beck played himself from just playing himself out of the conversation. Shout out to Ashton Janty, right? Boise State couldn't take
Oh,
home the
yeah.
Heisman this year.
Yeah, man.
But from your perspective, as someone who watches every single Georgia game, is there still reason to be excited about Carson Beck aside from the Heisman conversation?
I think so. And I honestly think that Alabama game and this Mississippi State game, if you're a Georgia fan, yeah, you didn't win one of those. And the other one you should have probably won by a lot more. But I kind of liked what I saw from Carson Beck in both games. It was actually after the Alabama game, I said, I think Georgia's found their identity and it is a pass heavy team. That is what they need to be. They did not go that route afterwards with Auburn. But it truly, to me, in those two games, I mean, where Carson Beck, 300, 400 plus yards, whatever it was, to me showed that, hey, let the guy just sling the rock. He's going to throw picks. When you throw it 48 times, you're going to throw interceptions. I mean, Carson Beck's two interceptions against Mississippi State. One was a batted ball. Like that happens. It's not necessarily on the QB. The second one was a questionable call. I mean, there's some people who thought maybe there's a holding call on the tight end that he was thrown into. But overall, I mean, he was making pretty solid throws. He had a few more that probably should have been caught. I mean, there was one more touchdown catch that probably should have happened that the receiver dropped. And that's been a bit of an issue at times this year as well, including against Alabama. One of the first throws of the game, Carson had his receiver right down the sideline, perfectly dropped it, and the guy just dropped the ball. And so I like the throws he makes. I like that he, has a confidence to sling the rock and push it downfield. He hasn't been perfect all year. I mean, he's missed some guys and some opportunities as well. But I think if Georgia does what they did a week ago, I don't think it's going to be 48 passing attempts every game. But I think if they're in the 30s, kind of approaching those 40s as far as passing attempts is concerned, like I trust Carson Beck in those situations. As long as you get him protection, which he had plenty of that against Mississippi State. He had all day to sit back there and throw it. It's not going to be the same against every team, right? Not going to
Yes.
happen against a Texas. But if you give him a little bit of time, he's got some speedy receivers that can get open, and I think they can really push it down the field. So I could see those numbers kind of going up for Carson. I want to say he's got like 15 touchdowns. I know he's got the 5 interceptions, but I mean, he's slinging it when he has to when they give him those opportunities. And I think you kind of got to roll with that. I think you just got to say, look, we'll run it when we can, but put it on Carson. Like this guy came into the year, first round draft pick hype. We talked about the Heisman hype. Let's see him go out there and prove it. I don't know if he'll talk himself back into the Heisman conversation because, as we discussed, there's a lot of talent out there in college football and guys putting up way bigger numbers. But I think he can work his way back into the one of the top QBs in the upcoming draft if he can continue to play the way they did against Mississippi State in the second half against Bama, which is open it up and air it out and just see what happens.
Well, I am curious because a big question in mine has been how good is this Texas defense? Because right now, number one top defense in the nation, but we've also seen Davis Warren play in Michigan. We saw Van Buren in Mississippi State a couple weeks ago, Michael Hawkins Jr., who couldn't do much of anything this past week. And yeah, I know that there's defensive talent on this team, but at the same time, if I was to look at it from an outsider perspective, I would say they probably haven't really been challenged by a fearsome offense. Is that Georgia? You tell me.
Yeah, it's very hard for me to sit here and say is I think it's definitely going to be the best maybe so far for Texas as far as the challenge is concerned. Just because, like I said, that the level of talent Georgia has recruited, right, throughout the years and the type of players they have. I mean, no offense to Michigan, but this is not the same Michigan team it was a year ago. And, Oklahoma is clearly struggling on the offensive side of the ball, and everybody else has just kind of been gimmies for Texas, right? So this will definitely be the hardest challenge they've faced. Is this going to be the offense that can ultimately bring down this team? I'm not quite sure. I would feel a lot better if Trevor Etienne was having a great season and they were just running the football. It doesn't help one of their running backs is not available this week in Branson Robinson, who suffered an injury in last week's game. If they were running the football a little bit better, I would feel a lot more confident about saying that, yeah, this could be the offense that takes down that Texas defense. But once again, this is going to be a real big test on Carson Beck and this offense and his receivers and his offensive line, that entire offense, not including the run game, which it'll be a challenge, obviously an indictment on them too if they play really well. But to me, you're kind of showing flashes of what you could be as an offense with his arm and the receivers that you have and the numbers they're putting up. This is kind of where you go see, okay, is this for real? Can we do
Yeah.
this on a week in, a week out basis against some of the toughest competition in the country? This week, I think, will really determine that, especially on the road in a hostile
Mhm.
environment. We saw what they did second half against Bama. Can you do that all game in Austin? And you got to start fast. That's been another thing for Georgia is they just cannot start the game fast. It's always slow starts. It's what doomed them at Alabama, even against Mississippi State. I mean, first drive interception. Like we know you can't have that in Austin. Um,
If Georgia wins, I would argue that be the best win of any team on the college football calendar, right? To go into Austin
Easily,
and win. So
yeah.
is this a must win? Can they afford to lose this game? Does it completely tank their college football playoff chances if they go with two losses in the SEC to Alabama and Texas?
I think for Georgia, no. I think they're still somehow going to be in the conversation just because of the talent they have, who's coaching them, and obviously, just the level of competition they play week in and week out. Alabama, I know they're not looking like the best team. It doesn't look like the same team that beat Georgia. At least the last couple weeks they haven't. Um, but it's still Alabama, right? They're still going to get the benefit of the doubt as far as losing to them. If you lose to Texas, well, you lose to the number one team in the country on the road. It's also how you lose, I think. If it's another close one and they barely lose, Georgia, I think, will still be in the conversation. But you asked me, is it a must win? Yes. I don't think it necessarily means you're out of the playoffs, but it is a must win because you've already gotten that one Alabama loss on the schedule. And you're really, after that, leaving yourself no more room. You still have to go to Oxford, and Ole Miss obviously doesn't look as good as we thought they were going to look coming into the season, but you still have to go on another hostile SEC environment with a quarterback that can throw the football and talented receivers. Still some big games ahead for Georgia. So you don't want to obviously, 6 games into the season have 2 losses. That's also kind of unprecedented under Kirby Smart. It doesn't really happen much. I mean, losing in the regular season is almost unheard of here, and so it would definitely bring a damper on the fan base. I think any sort of excitement coming into this season is going to sort of start dissipating. So for a lot of reasons, it's a must win, but I do not think it means Georgia's completely out of the playoff because of the caliber of opponent Texas is.
What's your prediction?
If I had to do one right now, this second, I would have to go Texas winning this one. I think just being at home, the way they're playing right now, the struggles Georgia's had in the secondary, I think positions Texas, in my opinion, to win. On the other hand, Kirby Smart is a amazing coach when it comes to big time games. I mean, he plays very well. The adjustments they're able to make in these big games, even when they lose, you see these clear adjustments that puts them in every single game, even if they're, have been at a disadvantage. We saw that against Alabama last year in the SEC championship game. We saw it this year. You just know that he's a big time, big game coach. So it's hard to go against him. I just think once again, Texas's offense is way too explosive right now for this Georgia defense. Um, but I think Georgia's offense probably sticks around, and I'll give Texas like a 38-35 advantage,
Hmm.
specifically because it is at home as well.
You absolutely have to give respect to the desperate team, right? All right. Well,
Yeah.
Sudu Upade, thank you for joining us once again on the Sports Office. Looking forward to having you in Austin, man. And yeah, we'll see you next time.
Yeah, man. We'll see you guys out there, man. Have a good one.
Thanks again to Sudu Upade for joining us in the Sports Office. So Sudu's flips his last time like we spoke with him. He was originally all UGA walking away with this win. as it stands today, Texas 3.5-point favorites here at home as the #1 team. What about you, Dennis? You also had a prediction that went against the status quo here in Austin as well.
Yeah, that was at the beginning of the year, and I'm flip-flopping away as well. Because we've watched things happen. This is
new data.
We have new data. And that's, this is why preseason polls and buzz and all that, it's fun, but it doesn't tell you what you need to know 2 months later or wherever. Here we are. We've watched this Texas team. We've watched the Georgia team. Again, I don't think anybody, that's why I had Georgia so high. I mean, their body of work the previous 3 years was just ridiculously high. 2 natties, just a stumble on the way to maybe what would have been a third. I also, at the beginning of the year, was thinking Michigan was going to beat Texas up a little bit. Not, thought it would be close, but just physically. And then you'd get to Oklahoma. I thought that game would be much closer and more of the physical, emotional drainer to set Texas up for failure. Texas came out of that thing unscathed as far as, they came out of both unscathed, but more importantly, this Oklahoma game, it almost felt like a tune-up for this Georgia game. I think Texas, they're the better team. I was talking to somebody in the elevator on the way to Sark's deal. When you're in the belly of the beast, when you cover UT football, usually we spend most of our time finding the warts, finding the negatives, critiquing what's wrong. It's hard with this team right now. If your wart, if the criticism, the biggest one that you can find is, they haven't played anybody, that's not bad. Because they're handling people who they are supposed to handle in a big way. That would be the only thing that I would be concerned of as a UT fan. The main thing is that, they haven't seen a passing attack because Carson Beck throws it around the yard, right?
You mean Braden Fowler, Nicolosi,
right.
or
because they really haven't.
Van Buren, Hawkins,
Texas has lived
Davis Warren,
a pretty charmed life when it comes to who they're playing. And then when they did play a Michigan, while the defense was solid, that offense was one-dimensional and horrible. So, so this is going to be a different animal. Now, the good news is Texas, every day at practice, goes against this offense, whether it's Quinn, Arch, and all those receivers. They've had their reps, so they're not game day reps, but I think they'll be prepared for it, and I see Texas winning by a touchdown.
I agree with you. I think it's time to flip-flopping, going towards the Longhorns here because, the new data is in, like Carson Beck. You talked about the Heisman odds early on. That's not the same quarterback that we've seen, and we'll find out. I really want to know this question gain answered. How good is this UT defense? Because right now they're allowing less than a touchdown per game. And will that stand up after the weekend? That's what I want to know because if they do, then really, it could be sailing through the rest of the schedule at this point.
Don't sleep on A&M in College Station.
Not going to sleep on them, but I would say, this is the toughest offense they face and might be the toughest offense they play the rest of the year. So, I think I got to go with the home team as well. I'm on Texas. So that is Longhorns across the board. We'll see how these predictions stand up next week on the Sports Office, which you can, of course, watch on Fox Local, 8 p.m. Central Standard Time, every night, nightly. From Julian Martinez, Dennis De La Pena, stay safe, happy, and healthy. We'll see you next time.
For the day ones, the diehards, the first-timers, the old-timers, for all the rivalry matches, buzzer beaters, and come-from-behind miracles. It's not just stats and wins and losses, it's the moments, the shots you can't believe went in, the times you can't do anything but believe. And it's all streaming right here on your connected TV anytime on Fox Local.
The Sports Office, streaming anytime on Fox Local.